the house yet.
Okay. Okay.
And so we made an offer on a home Sunday, but that was rejected today. So we're in a backup position the way they sell houses here. We're in a backup position in two different houses. And so if those deals fall out, then we can pick one or the other. But we're still looking.
Okay.
We have enough in the sale of our current house, we'll have enough to buy a house outright, which is our goal, is to have no debt, no mortgage debt. So we could buy, if we wanted to borrow more money, we could buy all kinds of houses, but we don't want to do that. We want to just pay for it and be done with it.
Yes.
At this stage in life, that's the better way to go. So
that's the better way.
So how are you? How is your family?
Yeah, we are fine. We are fine.
Awesome.
Thank God. So I just thank God for all the way things are going for you and for me. That's the thing with us here. Immediately after my retirement, the next thing is to just pack into my house where we are building already.
Mm-hmm.
And initially it was just roughly finished, and we just continue to finish up on the remaining aspect while we are living there.
Yeah, good.
So even up till now, it still needs some finishing touches. Yes, but we continue to live in it instead of going to rent.
Yes.
So it's better to just be in your property.
I know we looked at one of the houses we looked at would take a lot of work to live in. And then another one of the houses we looked at is ready to just move in.
Okay.
And so I told Janice and I've been talking, I said, you know, I can do the work. I have the tools to do the work, but I don't want to do the work. I just want to move in.
Yeah, just to move in.
So anyway, we'll see what God does. The move to the city that we're looking at is called Monmouth, Oregon.
Monmouth.
Monmouth. And so there's a university there, and I feel like I want to be close to a university and interact with students again, and not as a professor, but just as somebody who is there evangelizing and discipling.
Yeah.
So that's our hope, is that we can get a house in Monmouth, and which is just, if you look at a map, it's just west of Salem, Oregon. Salem is the capital of Oregon.
Okay.
So about 3.5 hours north of here, where we live now.
Mm-hmm.
But also would put us closer to our grandchildren here in Oregon, and which is nice. Be closer to them, see them more often, and closer to the Portland airport. So our grandchild down in Southern California, it'll be faster for her to get to us, fly into Portland and drive down and see us. So that's what we're hoping. By the grace of God, we'll see.
Yes, that's good. That's good. So the former house is sold outright.
It is sold, and we got, the buyer is a physician coming from Texas. They offered more than we asked for the house. So we'll get all of the investment that we put in this house back, and a little bit of profit, which is good.
Good.
And so that will now close. His offer was contingent on us selling his Texas home, so we've been waiting since September. But right now, everything's gone through, and it'll close December 19th. Okay. So December 19th and 20th, we will move out of the house. And if we have nowhere to live, we'll go live with family for a while. And if we still have nowhere to live, we'll borrow like a motor home. Our brother, Janice's brother, has offered us the use of his motor home. So we could be camping virtually till we find a house. So, yeah, so this house has sold. We had our last Airbnb guest just left Sunday. And so now we're selling all of that furniture out of that Airbnb.
Yes.
And your phone fell down.
It fell. It fell. My mobile fell.
And the rest of our house, we're still packing up the house and getting things ready. So when the movers get here, they just load the truck and drive away.
Hello?
So.
Hello?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? I can hear you. Now, can you hear me? Testing.
Yes, I can hear. Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good.
Yes.
So the physician is going to use the place for hospital.
No, he's going to live here. He's got a family and I think 3 or 4 children. And I don't know where he's working. I think he's working out of Coos Bay. Oh, did you lose me again? Test, 1, 2, 1, 2. This is a test of our emergency. Hello, hello, hello. Testing. Uh-oh. I lost you, Oriomi. Come back to me.
Okay.
Ah, there you are.
Yeah.
Good.
Hello.
Are we? We're having some technical difficulties, are we?
Hello.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Hello.
Can you hear me now?
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay.
You can?
Better.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Yes. Yeah. So I said that the physician, is he going to use the place for hospital?
No, he's going to live here.
Okay.
Yeah, this is going to be his home. He's got a large family.
Okay. That's good. Yeah. So we thank God. It said all things work together for good
Amen.
to those who love God. He's going to work out his goodness for you.
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me get into this.
Wow, this is wonderful. You've made the PowerPoint already for me.
I have. Well, when I got your message, I just I wrote down some. Can you hear me? Are you there? Can you hear me, Oriomi?
Hello.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear now.
Okay. Great.
Yes.
Well, I'm gonna kind of jump in on some of the questions you asked. When I got your questions, I just wrote down some notes and I did it on a PowerPoint so that we could go over it together. Because we're having a little trouble with the audio, if you lose me, just raise your hand so I know that you can't hear, and then I'll stop and we won't miss anything, although it is being recorded, so we should be good. Here's our core concept. You're stepping into a new role. As I understand it, it's to revitalize a program. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And so I borrow this from a scholar named Watkins. He said the overriding goal in a transition is to build momentum by creating virtuous cycles that build credibility and by avoiding getting caught in vicious cycles that damage credibility. Leadership is about leverage. And so what he means when he talks about building a virtuous cycle is to set things in motion that contribute to the mission of the organization and that are successfully executed and that move the organization forward. That's a virtuous cycle. A vicious cycle, by contrast, is something that undermines the organization's effectiveness and its mission. And so he's talking here, he's using descriptive language to talk about what's called systems theory. And in any system, the way you get a system to move forward or the way you get a system to change is to look for leverage points. And so his point is leadership is all about finding those leverage points. So I think of an organization that I was operations manager of a software company, and we had terrible sales. They needed our sales to come up. But when I analyzed the organization, I found that one of the virtuous cycles that I could develop was to have good customer service. And if we could get our customers happy, then we had a good reference point for new customers. We also solved some technical issues that we needed to solve. And so I started to bring change in our customer service, and that I got some successes. We actually got some new sales in the pipeline. Things began to move forward. But it wasn't, I wouldn't have known that's where I needed to begin unless I'd done an analysis of the organization. So there's our goal. As you step into this is to build some virtuous cycles. He goes on to point out that transitions, as you already are aware, transitions are a crucible for leadership development and should be managed accordingly. So anytime we step into a new role, we are stepping into what he calls a crucible of development. And crucible, is that pot that purifies metals, right? So the heat turns on, the impurities float to the surface. So where we get strengthened as leaders when we step into a new role and an expanding role or different role is our diagnostic skills are growing, the demand for growth, adaptation in our own lives, and then of course the test of personal stamina or endurance, because there's a lot of work in stepping into a new leadership role.
Yeah.
So I mentioned several things. You had questions about primary constituency, interdisciplinary approach, change tolerance, and change process readiness. And so I want to take each of these and talk about them. And along the way, if you have any questions, just let me know. Okay, so what I meant by primary constituency, you're going to have at least 3, maybe more, because you may have, you can subdivide these, but just primarily your constituents, first of all, your target audience. And so your target audience, in this case, you have a couple. You're going to be training students, correct? Yes, this is a training organization, a school?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so students are one of the target audience, but then who the students serve, right, once they graduate is also a target audience. And so the questions is, why will the mission of the organization appeal to the target audience? And in that target audience, what characterizes their worldview and what do they need? So there's other questions you can ask, but the big questions that I encounter when I'm involved in stepping into an organization are these: who's my target audience? Why does the mission of the organization appeal to them? What do I need to pay attention to? What characterizes their worldview so I know how to communicate? And then what do they really need? And so when we're talking about developing leaders in any venue, it's understanding where those leaders are going to serve, where those leaders are in their own development, so on and so forth. So target audience is one constituency. The other constituency, and can be either helpful or problematic, is the governing body. And so in paying attention to the governing body, whoever that may be, is it a group? Is it an individual? Is it a council? However they're structured, what drives their decision-making process? I need to know that as a leader. What are their spoken expectations? And more importantly, what are their unspoken expectations? Because behind every spoken expectation, there is an unspoken expectation. And so let me think of when I stepped into work with World Impact Teams in Los Angeles, the spoken expectation was make the program more effective as the field defines it, not as the US defines it. So we're working in 72 different countries. So I had to get feedback from 72 different countries on how we could help them. So that was one. Second one was determine if we can plant churches using short-term mission teams. And then the third one was an overall analysis. Should we continue doing short-term mission teams? Okay, so when I answered the third question first, should we continue doing it? I did that through research. What I didn't anticipate, so that I fulfilled the spoken expectation. I answered the question, yes, we should continue to do this. I came to that conclusion by researching. I think I talked to 12 different mission agencies on how they did short-term mission teams. And I compiled all that information into a spreadsheet, analyzed it, drew out the conclusions, and then published a paper. This is why we need to do it. At that point, I was in conflict with our governing body. And the reason I was in conflict with our governing body was they didn't want me to coordinate with any other denomination. They thought we should be able to do this all on our own without any outside interference. And so one of the key people on the governing body came into my office and said, I don't want you making us Southern Baptists. I want to be Foursquare. And I was shocked. I didn't know what he was talking about, but what he was talking about was an unspoken expectation that no other organization knew how to do missions as well as we did. And so when I challenged that, and I didn't know I was challenging that, when I challenged that, I got into conflict. And so another illustration, when I was at Bethesda University, I was on an executive team of faculty and administrators, and we were talking about the vision of the college and where we were going. And the board had already mandated our vision, so that wasn't an issue. We knew where we were going. We're talking about how to get there. And I remember making a suggestion. I made two suggestions that got me in trouble. This is a Christian university. The first suggestion was that we should pray before meetings. And everybody was shocked. Now, these are all, I mean, it was a theological school. And so everybody said, okay, well, let's pray. And so we asked God for wisdom in our decision-making, in our planning process. We got done praying, and the dean said, that is the first time I've ever prayed out loud with a group of people. I was amazed. Anyway, the second suggestion I had was that we would publish a paper on how we were going to execute what the board had mandated. And when I suggested that, somebody visiting the meeting got really upset and said, that is only the responsibility of the governing board. And I was, what is only the responsibility? Well, you're taking over the vision. I said, no, we're not defining the vision. We're talking about how we're going to execute the vision. The net result of that conflict, I showed up one day for class and the entire administration had been fired. The deans, the president, the vice president, the only people remaining were some of us professors. And so governing body is a key constituency when I talk about that. And then the third group are key partners. who are the people that you can call on that help you leverage the success of the organization forward? And so think about those key partners, and again, why will the mission appeal to them? The mission of the organization. What do they expect from the environment, from the relationship that you have with them, and from the environment in which the Institute is working? And so here again, I had at one of the universities I was at, they asked, it was the same one that fired everybody. They asked me the next year if I would design a program to integrate business and theology. And I said no. And they said, well, why do you say no? I said, because last year you just fired everybody in the administration. I said, that was a pretty impulsive act. I said, if I put this program together, I'm going to have to rely on key relationships I have all over Southern California and around the world. I said, and I'm going to use a lot of my relational currency, right? Or to say it another way, I'm going to ask my friends for a lot of help, and they're going to give. And I said, after I do that, if you decide for some reason that I violated something and you close the program down, then I have to go back to all my friends and say it failed, and I've used up a significant part of their friendship. It'll take me a while to rebuild that. And so I'm just going to say no. And so in key partners, you're attentive to the relationship. You're attentive to the fact you're asking them for help. What are they getting back out of it? But this too needs to be considered because some of those key partners will be internal to the organization. Some of those key partners will be external to the organization. So constituencies, that's what I meant by paying attention to key constituencies. Do you have any questions on that? Is that?
Oh, it's quite understood.
Okay.
The last aspect, the key partners, I think we can link the affiliate body as key partners, because the key affiliation with other seminary.
Good. Yes, that will be helpful.
Yeah, for credibility. So actually, they are looking forward that the building up of the training school, we get affiliated with already existing seminary.
Cool.
So I think that's a key partner issue.
Awesome.
But we have not really decided on when. But may I ask, in terms of affiliation, does it has to be only one? Can affiliating body be more than one to a particular training institute?
Well, it depends. Are there any restrictions in any of those relationships? But no, you're not restricted to one as a general rule. And so, for example, the universities that I've taught at have multiple affiliations in terms of partnerships that they generate in accrediting bodies. They may have more than one accrediting body that they work with. They may have more than one partner university that they work with. They have multiple institutes that they work with. And so depending on how you define affiliations, and then also depending on whether there are any restrictions within the agreements with those affiliations, I would look for having more than one, simply because you get so much more perspective and insight.
Okay. Because as for that, actually, I think you have answered it. I will also look forward to more than one. Moreover, I really want to bring the Institute to a global perspective. If, I mean, as I desire, if we have an affiliation within the country, if we can get another affiliation outside the country, because for me, I feel that we still have a lot to learn affiliating with institute or body from developed countries.
Yes.
So, and in that wise, I want you to be thinking along with me, and let's work it out. That along with the changes, because this discussion we are holding tonight will inform my acceptance letter. It's going to inform what I'm going to write in the acceptance letter. I believe in multiple affiliation. We are not just going to affiliate with one body because of the benefit of having global perspective and global relationship.
Yes.
So, I want to take note of that. Then, we are among the constituency. We are drawing lecturers both from within and outside. So the categories of faculty members, are they among the key partners?
Yes.
Key partners.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
If you had something else on constituencies, or does that wrap that up?
So I want you to just take note of the prospective recommendation from your end. I mean, if with your connection, if you can get a relationship with maybe any institution that you know can offer us that affiliation relationship, then we can bring in a formal letter.
Okay.
We can work at it. So I want you to take note of it and be working on it, and then let's see how it goes.
I will certainly think through some of the relationships I still have and see at least introductions that we can make, for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
I use the word interdisciplinary approach.
Can you make it bigger?
I cannot. It's inherently small on the slide.
Okay.
But I will send you this when I'm done.
Yeah, it's okay.
So interdisciplinary in approach, what I'm referring to is to have business people in business give you feedback and be participant, people in theology, people missiology, people in education, so that you're utilizing, as you are building the program, as you're thinking it through, as you're gathering partners and you're gathering key participants, that you bring in this wide conversation so that it is an approach that minimizes the blind spots that are inherent in each of these four things that I've mentioned in this, and there can be others. Business has blind spots, theology has blind spots, missiology has blind spots, education has blind spots. There's some overlap between them, when you put them all in conversation together, then you discover each other's blind spots and shed light on it in a way that you have a bigger picture. And so for me, anything today that deals with theological education or theological training obviously has a theological component to it, but it also has to have a missiological component to it that automatically recognizes.
The voice is gone.
Tell me, can you hear? I'll just talk for a minute. Test, test. Can you hear me now? Or now? Or now? Now, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you again.
Okay.
I lost when you said anything that can. I didn't hear the rest.
Okay. I'll start over. I don't know what. When you put these multiple perspectives together, you help each other see each other's blind spots. And so, in my view,
no. I'm not hearing. Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me now? Now, can you hear me? Uh-oh. Oh, dear. Can you hear me now?
Hello? Yes.
Okay.
I can hear now. I don't know whether it's my location or what. The network is
It's being
so
unstable for you.
Okay. Yes, that's okay. But can we? Yeah, you mentioned the blind spot in business, education, theology, and which other? The fourth one.
Missiology.
Hello. Huh?
Missiology was the fourth one.
Yes. Okay.
So business, theology, missiology, and education. And by missiology, we're specifically cross-cultural in view, or multicultural. Oh, it looks like your screen froze. Well, we're going to pause here for a moment. Coming back. All right, you're back.
Hello? Yes, I'm back.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm trying to locate so that I think maybe it will be better this way.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
Let's continue.
Okay. So the four things that I specifically mentioned in interdisciplinary: business, theology, missiology or cross-cultural, and then education in terms of educational principles. If we're looking to develop leaders who can present the gospel to the community, the world that we're living in today, I see an interdisciplinary approach being absolutely essential. So students need to be exposed to the skills and the perspectives that go with each of these disciplines. And so in summary, when I said interdisciplinary approach, that's what I was talking about. And these are things that you would recruit. These are individuals you would recruit to the table in designing the program and designing where it was going to go and how it was going to be implemented.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. And if you look at the curriculum that I sent, that you made remarks, you will notice that we have a blend of these. There is the education there. There is entrepreneurship there. We have entrepreneurship.
Oh, yes, I remember. Right.
Yeah. The one that perhaps we may need to emphasize more is the aspect of missiology, which I will look into it more. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. I talk about change tolerance.
Yes.
And when I'm talking about change tolerance, I'm talking about three things, three different groups that make up the organization as a whole. So what I meant was change the ability of the organization to tolerate change. And that has to be not only among the existing participants, but the future participants and yourself. Change tolerance is comprised of three different things. The first is adaptive capacity. And the second is relational congruence. And the third is technical competence. And so within any organization, if I can measure its ability to handle change, this becomes imperative. So by adaptive capacity, I mean, does the organization and its leaders see the systemic issues that it needs to address, not just the symptomatic issues? Can it calmly confront the unknown? Does it lead a learning process in the face of uncertainty? And is it express itself by asking questions or by stating propositions? And so when I listen to an organization, particularly one that's struggling, I look for, do they have this adaptive capacity? Can they see the systemic issues, or are they stuck on symptoms? So, for example, when I was at Foursquare Missions, they wanted me to bring change to World Impact Teams because they wanted to see greater missionary funding. And so the problem they wanted me to address was the increase in missionary funding. But the problem that I really was presented with was the systemic way in which we did missions and devalued short-term teams as an entryway into a cross-cultural awareness. So I had to deal with the systemic issue in order to gain any traction in bringing change. So adaptive capacity. The next is relational congruence, and relational congruence deals with how people relate to one another. Is there integrity? Do people do what they say they're going to do? Is there maturity in how they live their lives? So are they taking responsibility? Are they executing? Are they, able to relate well together? Emotionally, are they healthy? Spiritually, are they healthy? And then, do they have an appropriate level of authenticity? Are they a real person, or do you get the sense when you talk to them that they're not being totally truthful, totally honest? And so, if I have people working on the team that don't have integrity, obviously there's going to be a problem. If I have people working on the team that are not mature, there's going to be tensions. And so I look for how is the team as a whole, and how's the organization as a whole deal with this relational congruence? Are they congruent? That is, are they consistent between their claim and their actual lifestyle and behavior? And then the third thing in change tolerance is technical competence. And so I can have adaptive capacity, I can have relational congruence, and still fail because I don't have the technical competence in order to do the thing that I need to do. So do I have the skills? Do I have the contextual skills? Do I have the organizational value? Do I have consistent delivery? Do I have development through assessment that's happening? So when I talk about change tolerance, I had these forces in mind. When I was at the early part of my time at Foursquare Missions, I'd written a preliminary strategy paper on where I wanted to go. And this is as I did a general assessment of the challenge in front of me. I took it to Fuller Theological Seminary to a guy I'd been referred to who did a lot of cross-cultural work. He'd been a missionary in Africa. He'd been a missionary several other places. Sent him the paper. We sat down to talk about it. And the first thing he asked me when we sat down was, he said, "Have you shown this paper to anybody?" And I said, "No." He said, "Don't." And I said, "Is it that bad?" He goes, "No, it's not bad. It's prophetic. You are one of the most visionary prophetic leaders I've ever met. And if you present this paper as it is right now, you are going to be tarred and feathered and thrown out." I said, "What?" He said, "The paper this is absolutely where you need to go, but it doesn't take into consideration the ability of the organization to change. And you need to study change dynamics." And so he put me in touch with Bobby Clinton, who was at Fuller back then. And one of the classes that Bobby taught was change dynamics. And that class became a anchor class for me in my master's program. One of the things, as I'm working now through that class and I'm working on the change strategy for this leadership role I'm in, Bobby stopped by my desk one day as we were completing some assignment. And he said, "Ray, have you answered the ethical question?" And I just stopped. I said, "What ethical question?" He said, "The ethical question that's related to this question. Just because you can bring the change, should you? Should you? You can do it. You see the potential for it, but should you do it? Is the organization ready for it yet? Is the organization ready for everything that you see it has potential to be? Or do you need to rethink your strategy and stage this out differently?" Well, I'd never considered that before. And so what he was really asking me was I aware of the change tolerance within the organization? And as I came to understand, as I was working on this, that the organization did not have a high change tolerance. It didn't really have anything in these three circles. It didn't have the technical competence that we needed. It didn't have the adaptive capacity, and it didn't have the relational congruence, not throughout the organization. And so when I initiated the change, I had these things in part, but not in whole. What ended up was I got fired for being successful. Now, the end of that story is, years later, when I went back to visit, the director of Foursquare Missions pulled me aside and told me that they had redesigned the entire denominational missions outreach around my paper. I was shocked. And then 5 years ago, which is years later after I got fired, 5 years ago, just 5 years ago, I was talking to the new director and he told me the same thing. So what was for me an initial failure and to bring change to one department within the missions ended up changing the entire Foursquare Missions. I only get the credit for that behind the scenes. I didn't get any of the credit for that at the time. So as a change agent, one has to be willing to be sacrificed for the change. And if you set it in motion and it was right and it was prophetic, it's going to happen anyway. But be aware, do some time thinking about the change tolerance within the organization.
Yeah.
Also, go ahead.
So about the change.
Yes.
About the change, I know that there are two perspectives as a catalyst. You know, a catalyst may not necessarily undergo the change while affecting the whole process. That's one aspect. On the other hand, there is the aspect of changing yourself to bring about the change of others.
Yes.
So in that way, which of these do we adapt in this change tolerance? Do we go as catalyst, or do we go as changing to bring about change?
That is a good question. And I think the answer to that question is going to rest on how God has gifted you and what God is saying to you in this particular assignment. My suspicion is that it will be in this assignment, if you took it, a combination of both. That you would be a change agent and you would be changing, so that these three circles would apply not only to the organization, but would apply also to you as the leader of the organization, or a leader within the organization. And that would be then, as you've outlined it, a third option, which combines the first two.
Okay.
But that really, that boils down to what you're hearing the Holy Spirit say, and what you discover in your assessment. Both are possible.
Okay. So the thing is that both must be ready for change.
Yes. Yes. And this is a pitfall, by the way, that leaders can fall into. I know I have fallen into it, where I've successfully changed an organization, but then I was no longer equipped to lead it. Because if you successfully change an organization, you have to change in order to keep up with where now the organization is going. And so leaders don't, I'm glad you brought this up. Leaders don't always think about that. They think about what the organization needs to do to change. They succeed in that, and then they have to change because they created a brand new organization with much larger demands, with much broader scope, and they are not prepared to step into that role. And so everywhere along the change continuum, you have the potential and you have the need for the leader to continue to develop as well.
Yeah. So that is clear. It's clear. Okay.
Okay, so when we're talking about change processing, and we're talking about looking at an organization and determining its readiness, then one of the things that we're looking at what's the assignment? So for example, if we started down here in the lower left corner, we talked about sustaining success. So the organization is highly successful in what it does, and you're brought in as a leader, and your job is to sustain that success. Then great, you have several options. You can, if the only output arrow here is succeed, right? So if I'm sustaining success and I succeed, then I start up. That is, I initiate new things. And if I succeed, then this is a growth cycle, right? So I sustain, I start new things, it works. And so I'm down here growing, growing the organization in this cycle here. If I was brought in to sustain success and I fail, then I'm into a realignment, right? So if I succeed in the realignment, then I'm sustaining success. I'm in a recovery cycle, right? If I'm in a realignment and I fail, I'm in a turnaround situation. Now, a leader can enter at any one of these, right? So the first analysis is what is the position of the organization I'm being called in to lead? Is it a startup? Is it brand new? Is it a realignment, or because they need refining? Or is it something that's about to fail and so I need to completely turn it around? Whatever my starting point is defines then the cycle that I'm in, right? So if I step into an organization that's failing, it's about to die, and I'm asked to come revive it, I'm in a turnaround situation. If I succeed, right, then I sustain success, And now I'm in this crisis cycle, and I can get out of the crisis cycle and get into a recovery cycle, and then hopefully a growth cycle. If I'm called to realign an organization, it's mostly successful, just needs some fine tuning. Then I succeed in that. I'm in a recovery cycle that can shift into a growth cycle. So the process, the purpose of this chart is to say, what am I walking into, right? When I assess the organization, am I entering a startup, and am I entering a successful organization? Am I entering an organization that just needs a slight realignment? Am I entering an organization that needs to turn around? And so you have a success, fail, only two choices. You succeed or fail on any of these. And ultimately, if I fail at a turnaround, I shut down. If I fail in a startup, I shut down. So I can follow the lines and say, okay, this is what I thought I was stepping into, but it's failed. So now I'm over here in a turnaround. I have to succeed. What does that look like? And redefine it. It just is a way to define, where do I need to focus my attention and how?
Yeah.
And so with this, I'm going to hop back and forth for a minute. With what I've just said on this screen, we go to this screen, and this is talking about where I'm going to focus my energy, right? So if I'm in a realignment organization, then I'm going to do more learning, and I'm going to be more on the offensive. That means I'm going to be out. If you think about a sporting game, I'm not defending. I'm out trying to score points, right? And so I can think of American football. I don't know international football enough to use it as an analogy, but in American football, I've got the ball. I've got to go get a touchdown. I'm on the offense. If I'm in a startup, there's more doing than learning, right? And the same thing in a turnaround. There's more doing. There's a ton of things that have to get done. We have to get some successes going. If I'm in a startup, there's more doing and there's more offense. If I'm in a turnaround, that is, the organization was failing, but we're going to help it succeed, I've got more doing and I'm more defense. So what's happening on defense is I'm protecting the ground the organization already has, right? I'm protecting what the organization, its resources, I'm protecting its ability to do until I get better footing and I can move from a turnaround to a realignment, right? So I move, this is where I'd want to move. If I'm in a turnaround, I want to hit realignment first, because now I can move from more doing to more learning to more offense. Then I hit success, where it's more learning and more defense, right? So again, at a highly successful organization, they're protecting their assets, they're protecting the ground one, as well as learning how to continue to gain and to sustain success. So once I have determined in the organization what I'm stepping into, then this chart's going to tell me where I focus my energy. Is it more doing than learning? Is it more offense than defense? That depends on which quadrant I've stepped into. Does that make sense?
Yes. So I think in this, in that quadrant, I see where we are as more of startup.
Okay.
And realignment.
Okay.
So that we can sustain the success.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So in a startup, there's a lot of work to be done, and to get to realignment, everything here is on the offense. You're out gaining ground. You're out trying to acquire. This is the Joshua assignment, right?
Yeah.
This is the Joshua assignment. Go conquer the land.
Yeah.
One more thing on when we're talking about this is all under the what did I call it? Go back one more. Change process. One last thing is the stages of change. And again, as a leader, when I enter the assignment, there's basically 4 stages that I go through in any kind of change or any kind of entrance into a job. There's a transition stage, an immersion stage, a reshaping stage, and then consolidation. So transition, immersion, reshaping, a lot of offense work here, then defense work here if we're using the sports analogy. And then here I have the intensity of change instituted by leaders, and then the time in months. So when you come into an organization, and particularly one that's going to be a startup or is going to be a realignment, the transition stage is bringing a lot of change, right? So you make changes right off. I mean, it's just stepping into it as a change. And so the first 6 months, 12 months, this happens. When you hit stage 2 and you begin to immerse into the organization, notice that there's a drop off of change. Here's a mistake that sometimes leaders make. They think they can push this chart continuously climbing. That is a formula for disaster. You bring in a certain amount of change, and then you consolidate that change and you give people a chance to get accustomed to the new, right? Then you're in a position of wanting to reshape. Notice change now begins to accelerate at a much higher rate. I bring the change in to reshape the organization. As I have that change accomplished, I begin to back away from change again to consolidate, give people a chance to breathe, get rested, and then to consolidate the whole thing to gain success. There's a change that continues, but notice it isn't quite as steep. And in fact, if we follow this chart out, there'd be cycles of change that would happen, because if you're going to sustain success, there's going to be change. Obviously, there's changes in technology, there's social changes that every organization has to address. But it's these first 3, recognizing when I bring fast change, I have a break. I bring fast, intense change again, I have a break, and then I consolidate the change. At this point, then we're moving into year 3, and I've accomplished enough change rapidly enough that now I can spend the time to consolidate it and to help it be a virtuous cycle of sustaining that change and sustaining growth. I found this chart just to be helpful to say, how am I doing? Am I working fast enough? Am I being too slow? What stage am I in terms of my own transition in? So the time in months is helpful here, right? Just to gauge where I am as I enter a new position.
No,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, in these stages of change, especially the time and month, are they by research of organization that they have to get through these months, or the months are varied?
Yes, it's research of leaders stepping into new roles, and these are excuse me, these are averages, right? So within the first 18 plus or minus months, you'll be through these first stages, right? Within the first 3 years, you should have hit consolidation. So maybe it'll happen at 18 months, maybe it'll happen at 20 months. There's some flexibility here, like there's always a margin of error in any kind of average. But this is just a general average based on leaders' experiences they take up a leadership of a new organization.
Okay.
Then when you're stepping into a new role, it's, focusing your activity. I think this is Watkins again, has 7 things that he says leaders should always come back to. And I have this, if I'm in a new organization, I'm kind of taking this particular slide and putting it up somewhere on my desk to just reflect on periodically. So here's my focus. Am I keeping long-term goals in mind? Am I identifying a few promising focal points? Am I concentrating on the most promising focal points or leverage points? Have I launched pilot projects? this is one of the things that at World Impact Teams that ended up being part of my change process was I did a couple of pilot projects that didn't rock the boat with anybody just to test the concept. And so I had a team that went to Australia and we worked together to try a new model of relating, and then did a debrief afterwards. Did that work? Yeah, that worked really good. Great. That's something we're going to incorporate in a larger way. So pilot projects become very important. The other one was to elevate change agents. Every organization has people who will resist change for various reasons. The reasons aren't always bad. But when I'm a leader bringing change, I look for other people who are adapting early to the change, and I want to elevate those change agents. I want to promote them either by encouragement or actual promotion in position, depending on their skill set, so that they can help contribute to it. And then leverage pilot projects to introduce new behaviors. I launched the pilot projects. This is kind of the outcome, right? If organizations are failing, if organizations are not successful, it's always because their behaviors are not congruent to their stated goals. And organizations don't always see this. And so I do a pilot project to launch those new behaviors, to demonstrate those new behaviors and how they work. And then 7, he says, regularly refer to the diagnostic framework. The diagnostic framework is back here, this one, right? So regularly refer to this to say, what am I in? Am I moving this? Am I in the right cycle, and am I moving forward, or am I failing? And what do I need to do to bring change?
Okay.
I have 3 that amplify some of these concepts. I have 3 different, they're either book summaries or papers. Balsinger's Adaptive Leadership, Lencioni's Team Dysfunctions, and Watkins, a summary of Watkins' book, The First 90 Days. If you'd like these, I can pop them in an email to you, as well as this slide deck, if you think it would be helpful.
That would be very helpful.
Great. So have I succeeded in answering the question of what I meant by
oh, sure. You've succeeded more than my expectation.
Awesome. So this is what we're primary consistency, interdisciplinary, change tolerance, and change process readiness.
Yes. You know, I'm going to reflect, and from this discussion, extract what I will put forth as my acceptance letter.
Awesome.
What I look forward to, what I hope will happen. So trusting God that together we'll be ready for the changes that God will bring our way. So yes. I will be ready with this now. I think I'm comfortable to go ahead and put forth. They are expecting my response that already. So for me, I've just been doing my voluntary offer of service. They brought the formal letter, which I need to respond to. So I will respond, and just pray along with me.
I will.
And I know that right now we have the committee. We are 5 in the implementation committee. We are 5, and we are building up the faculty members, drawing from different affiliation partners. Then the other thing is that we are testing the class, the lecturing with bilingual.
Ah, okay.
Because the level of education of some of them is so low. We have among them up to even master's level who are in the class. Majority are degree holders, but there are few others for certificate level who level of education primary school, but they've had experience in ministry and they need a formal education. So we had an experience. We tried to divide the class into two. One class to be purely in mother tongue. Another class to be purely in English. But we noticed that those who are separated into purely mother tongue feel that maybe they are devalued, so to say. They won the class together.
Yeah.
So, and truly there are advantages if they are together. When they interact together, they learn more. So,
that's true.
So within the 1 month we have started now, we only did separate class once, but we are now doing the classes together.
Awesome.
But their exam, we are hoping that they are going to do a kind of probationary exam that is going to categorize each one to their level. So we run a class that we call College English and Writing. College English and Writing. I mean, that one, quite a number of them, if they can catch up on time, they will be able to cope well. And then the challenge for those who are of lower level of education is expression in writing. And because the official language is English, we will not want to be doing an exam for them in mother tongue. Even their reflection, their assignment has to still be submitted in English. So we have that challenge, but we hope that we'll get over it.
That is,
so far, so good. We're encouraged. If you remember, we had this relationship initially with one church that we trained their workers. Another church, we train their workers. But this one is a church we are attending that is hosting the institute.
Wow.
Is the one hosting the institute. So we believe that we got somewhere that we can stay longer with them, work with them, believing that this change that God may want to bring about will be accepted. So that's the situation. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So I will be updating you, and I will be happy to get those material documents.
I will pull them together and get them off to you.
Yeah. Thanks very much. God bless.
God bless you,
Yeah.
Oriomi.
So our meeting with other two friends
Yes.
is postponed till January.
Yes, I will. Sometime after the first of the year, I will send out another email and we'll put together another date.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Blessings on you.
My greetings to Janice.
My greetings back to
And to all the grandchildren.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you. Blessings on you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.